In this episode, Golden and I discuss Season 1 of Invincible. Full speed ahead.
The Omega Beam. Full power. The Omega Beam.
Welcome to the Omega Beam number 124. I'm your host, Oren Merton. You might know Robert Kirkman for his smash hit comic, The Walking Dead, which turned into a smash hit TV show. But in fact, he released the comic Invincible before The Walking Dead. It's just that Invincible took longer to make its way to TV. So Amazon Video just streamed the finale of the 8-episode Season 1 of Invincible, and it's been quite the hit for Kirkman and Amazon. So like we do with our popular shows, we start out spoiler-free, and we give you ample warning before we break into our spoilerific section. So let's go! I am here with Golden to talk about Prime Video's Invincible, based on the Robert Kirkman comic of the same name. So I think the first thing I'd like to say is just, wow.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about how the fact that they worked the name of the series into the opening every single time flawlessly.
Oh, yeah, that was a running gag. That instead of when someone's about to say the term Invincible, they would show the title card of the show named Invincible in the font
it was done
used
really
in the comics. Well. Yeah. So I figure we'll stay spoiler-free for a little while before we get into the meat of it. There really isn't much we can say about the full series without giving everything away.
Basically, a lot of violence, a lot of gore, strong story, strong personalities, well-developed characters that you're constantly finding more and more about. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, one of Robert Kirkman's goals when he originally wrote this comic series years ago, it was a 144-issue series, so the series went on quite a while. And one of his goals was to kind of take the superhero tropes and turn them on their head. So this story isn't about Superman, who in this story is, Omni-Man is kind of the analogous character. It's about his son. It's about Mark Grayson, the son of Nolan Grayson, and Mark Grayson gets his powers when he's about 17 years old, and so he becomes invincible. Yeah,
he takes the trash out and accidentally throws it out into orbit.
Right, and that's in the trailer, so it's not a huge giveaway. But yeah, so he becomes the superhero character Invincible, and it's about all kinds of stuff. It's about just the drama of growing up, the drama of being a superhero, family drama. It's just, and like Golden said, it's very gory. It's not. It's if superheroes can punch their fist through someone's head, they're going to show it in this animated series. So while it may be of interest to younger viewers, really it kind of is for a mature audience, I'd say.
I think that it's definitely for the more adult audience.
But it is absolutely amazing. I mean, there's a reason that it has something like a 96% aggregate critic score, Rotten Tomatoes. The fans love it. It's been a streaming hit for Amazon Prime Video because this has just both word of mouth and people who like this stuff. It's worth all the accolades. And as far as the gore, I do not watch live-action gore. I just don't like it at all. But somehow animated gore doesn't quite disturb me as much.
No, I think you still seemed a little disturbed a couple times.
Oh, there were things that were pretty gross. But if it had been live-action, I would be haunted and refuse to continue the series. Whereas this is just ew. But yeah, very, very highly recommended. The actual animation is great. The soundtrack is great. The voice actors are great. It's a fairly all-star cast. The character in the comics happens to look like J.K. Simmons, whom they happen to get to do the voice, so it's absolutely perfect for the voice of Omni-Man.
And then going back to the title card, it starts out cleaner in the earlier episodes.
Right.
And it just gets more bloody.
Right. The amount of blood on the title card kind of relates to how much blood there is in that episode. Yeah, Stephen Yuan, who does Mark Grayson, is fantastic. Sandra Oh as Debbie Grayson is fantastic. Zachary Quinto as Robot is fantastic. Gillian Jacobs as Adam Eve is fantastic. I mean, it's just a fantastic cast.
And the first episode starts off with just about everything.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it sets up the rest of the series, I should say the season at this point. Oh, or actually the series as well.
Right.
But, yeah, you learn a lot just from the first episode.
And for those of you like me who have read the comic, and so you know the story. I did not read all 144 issues. I think I stopped halfway through just because, life took over and I had things to do. But for those who have read the comic, I think it's different enough that there were things and there were directions that I did not know and that were surprising to me as well. So even if you know the story, you don't know the series. And it's still absolutely worth watching. I think we may be done with our spoiler-free segment.
I think so.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Spoilers. Holy crap, that first episode. It looks like it's going to be just a family drama. And boom. And I knew what was coming. I remember it from the comics.
I had no idea.
And I was still shocked. Not just because they upped the gore, but because they set up this show and you kind of think you know what it's going to be, and it's just such a shocking moment when it happens. When Omni-Man turns on the entire Guardians of the Globe, a.k.a. Justice League, and just clobbers them. And it, again, playing with comic book tropes, there's a lot of I don't want to say speculation, but there's a lot of people out there who like to talk about comics saying Superman could kill everyone in the Justice League. He's so much more powerful. Others saying, no, he's not. All these others would be able to stand up. Well, Robert Kirkman basically staged that fight in his comic. And yeah, Superman kind of wiped the floor with everybody. It wasn't easy, but he did. And that is kind of his answer to the question of what would happen if Superman turned on the Justice League.
Well, even when one of them comes back later in the show, they have another fight, the two of them.
Right.
And you think at one point, oh, well, maybe this will be, a contender. And it's just not.
Right. Not really. But yeah, it's an incredibly well done animated series in the sense that it deals with real issues, and the comic did as well. In fact, I don't want to give this away because it's so many. It's probably third season if they get into it at all. But there were some points in the comic where Robert Kirkman was under a fair amount of criticism for dealing with real controversial issues, and some people were not particularly happy with how he did it, though I thought he did it in a very realistic manner. And a lot of people were incredibly happy with how he didn't just gloss these things over, but he dealt with, serious, social and physical and mental health issues very honestly. But this does deal with the repercussions of this lifestyle in a way that you don't normally see in, superhero animated series. And it really makes it gripping. I mean, it is animated, but it just makes it gripping storytelling beyond the fact that it's animated or not. I think the actual visuals are quite good. The style of animation is on the one hand very close to the comic. And in fact, I believe he said Ryan Ottley, who did a lot of the art for the comics, also did a lot of the character designs in the animated series. So they look very close. And it's a wonderful continuity from comic to animated series. But just the smoothness of the action and how visceral it all is. I mean, it's just done really, really well. And they use a lot of songs, popular rock songs and things for the soundtrack, as well as a score. And I think the choice of music is really good. It's not like contemporary stuff that you'd know. Maybe
No,
it was,
but it changes where appropriate. It doesn't take away from what's happening. It complements it well.
like so many comic stories, it kind of bleeds fantasy and sci-fi into a modern urban setting. And I think they do a great job with this one, of making the technology that is, obviously way beyond what we have here, making it look like it fits in that world.
And don't you love how no one actually recognizes Nolan as Omni-Man when he's just in regular clothing? No one's like rushing him or anything.
But in a way, again, that's playing with another trope in a way that I love. No one would ever be fooled by Clark Kent wearing glasses. Nobody. The idea is, and this has been expressed by other writers in later comics than the original ones, but the idea is that no one is looking at the schlumpy guy who's a reporter and looking at him and thinking, wow, you must be Superman.
Whereas I've said before that if you're a best friend or you really know the person, even if they're wearing a mask, you're going to recognize them.
Right. That's my...
And I think that the pieces are put together pretty easily by some of the characters in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's appropriate.
It is. I mean, one of my favorite lines was when Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern goes to Blake Lively and tries to hide his identity from this character, and she says, "Wait, Hal? Is that you?" And he's like, "What? How do you know?" And he's like, "I've seen you naked. Do you think I wouldn't know who you are if you hide your cheekbones?" And of course, I mean that's exactly it. I mean, you'd be able to know, and of course they do, and I like that. That's throwing that on its head. But that's just one of the great things about this series and where it's going.
And you have a character that, shows up, you remember? Shows up at the very beginning and then shows up at the very last episode. And you're still expecting something different than what really happens.
Right.
Especially if you're not familiar with the comic book.
Right. Alan the Alien is just such a fun character. Adam Eve is, of course, fantastic. She is a major part of Mark Grayson / Invincible's life. I think that they did a great job of dealing with her character, and she has her own family issues. Obviously she's not the daughter of a psychopathic superhero, but she has her own problems.
Abusive, controlling parent.
Yeah, she has her own issues, and
unlike a lot of people, she has the ability to not stay trapped in that. And she says, "Wait a minute, I don't need this.
Right.
I don't have to stay here. I don't have to stay and have you demean and verbally abuse me. I can leave."
Right.
And
Absolutely.
I wish more people that were in that situation could make that choice for themselves.
Sure, and this is the kind of show. Like I said, it's an animated show, but at the same time, these are issues you'd find in any live-action drama that deals with these things properly. And here we are in a hour-long animated, each episode is an hour long, which already is very long for animated shows. Most animated series, if not all, are 30 minutes. I think all currently airing.
Well, these are about 45.
Right. Right. I mean, an hour show with commercials would be 42 minutes. So this is about the equivalent of an hour show on a network that had commercials. But yeah, you're right. It's
and
not
only 8
a full
episodes.
Hour. Yeah. I think that's Amazon. As I recall, there's 8 episodes. I don't think I've ever seen an Amazon show with more or less than 8 episodes a season. I think they've just made the decision that 8 episodes in the season is what they want. And they do it. I also think they did a smart thing in that I believe the first 3 I think dropped at once. So it really sunk you in the story before they started dripping them out to keep excitement going. Because those first 3 episodes, man, oh boy. I mean, the story is set up, and writer Mark Bernardin said there's a bomb. He said it's a term of art, a term in the writer's room, calling it a bomb under the table, that we, the audience, know that Omni-Man, that Nolan Grayson did all this. But his family doesn't know. The Guardians of the Globe that are, the new version of the Guardians of the Globe don't know. And it's this tension. When is everyone going to find out? What's going to happen? And it does. It creates this massive tension in every meeting because you know what they don't. And you also know that at some point it will come out. So it's just, they handled it so well. And yeah, this, I bought the hardcovers. I have about 9, I think, of the hardcovers. And each hardcover covers about 13 issues. And the first season is basically, give or take, that first hardcover. So theoretically, I don't remember how many hardcovers it went total. I mean, I think there's like 15 or 16 or something total. So theoretically, this could go for a very long time if they wanted it to. We'll see. But I think they included just the perfect amount of story in these 8 episodes, because you get enough story that you feel you got a really satisfying arc that had depth to it, and you got to know the prime characters well. But at the same time, there is so much left to go. And the last episode both wraps up the first arc really well and primes you for where it could go from here. It could go cosmic and so much more to do on Earth and everything else. So, yeah, this is just a fantastic show. I mean, this is really such a good animated show. I mean, it in my opinion, it transcends animation, although obviously it is completely an animated show. You can't forget it's animated. But
I have a hard time, and I said this to you before, hearing Walton Goggins without an accent. I was like, wait a minute, I know that voice, but used to him on like Justified or Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Sure.
I mean, it's usually he's heavily accented, and hearing him without an accent was very strange. I'm sad that he sent Clancy Brown away too soon. Too soon.
Well,
and I kept wondering if Damien Darkblood was going to come back, and maybe he will in a later season. I don't know.
Maybe.
Well, you'd have more of an idea.
Yeah. Also, didn't Clancy Brown also do the clones? Because those clones are still part of the story. They're in jail at the end, but they're part of the story.
The twins?
Yeah.
No, I'll look that up, but I'm pretty sure that it's not.
Oh, okay. I thought he did both. Whoever they got to do it sounded very much like... No, you're right. It's not. It's Kevin Michael Richardson.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did get Ezra Miller, the Flash, to play a voice too, D.A. Sinclair.
So I'd like to say that I enjoyed Adam Eve. I thought she was really great.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting because we just finished watching Community, and I could not stand her on Community.
I think
I really just didn't like Britta.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's that you didn't like Britta.
Maybe I just didn't like that character, but it was nice to hear her in a role that I could appreciate her as an actress, because on Community, her character was,
So, like we said when we began this, if you don't like watching gore in any of its forms, this is very gory. I mean, it is a very gory cartoon because it is not one of these things that glosses over the violence of superhuman punches or anything like that. And it gets both creative and horrifying in new and innovative ways that it can be horribly gory. So it is definitely on the gory side.
If you are looking for an adult cartoon that will keep you entertained, this is definitely one to go to.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And it's one that it will
Not
stick with
not
you.
if you like the violent. Not if if even animated violence bothers you, then it's not the go-to.
Yeah, absolutely. And it will stick with you emotionally and for the story. I mean, for violence aside, it will stick with you for the actual story involved. Now, I loved the comics, and the comics stuck with me for years, but I thought this was a wonderful, not just adaptation, but expansion on what was dealt with in the comics. And I'm very happy to see this in the form it's in. I was looking forward to one day it becoming a live action series, but having seen what they did with it animated, I can see why it might appeal to a studio to do it animated because, well, you'd probably have to be putting in like $50 million an episode or something.
Yeah, and there was on the trivia on IMDb, apparently it was optioned by Universal Pictures in 2017 as a feature film with Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg.
Right, and they are still producing the animated series. Those two are still
developing.
producers.
So I don't know if that was actually an animated feature film or live action. I'm going to guess maybe it was animated.
Yeah, I think this is very much... I in general tend to think that comics really lend themselves to the kind of sequential storytelling you can do in TV series. The only other way, I think, to really get them right is to do what Marvel does, and you basically use your movies like you would have a 2-hour TV show. Because the problem is that 2 hours is not enough time to give you the full depth and breadth of a comic arc. And I think that these stories really, really get to live and breathe when you give them that kind of room. And it's no accident that Marvel has been so successful with each of their movies being like an issue of a comic. They're just 2-hour episodes. And you really need the entire 21 movie arc to get the full story. That doesn't mean each individual movie. I mean, you can enjoy Black Panther without ever seeing any of the other movies, just as a piece of art in itself. But to get the full story, you really want to watch all 21, culminating in Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame. And I think series are great for that. So I'm glad to see that it's a series. I think if they would have made a one-off animated movie with maybe a couple sequels every 3 years or something, it would not have nearly the impact as an 8-episode series, which is kind of like an 8-hour movie, knowing there's more coming. There's seasons 2 and 3 coming, so we're going to get 16 more as the years progress. And I like that. I think that does a great service to the story and after that to the audience, that assuming the other seasons are as good as the first one is, it will be much better this way than if it were just a few movies over a decade. That's my feeling.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Golden.
You're welcome.
And that's it for this episode. You can find the show notes at theomegabeam.com/124. If you liked this episode, please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. It's those reviews that help people who like this stuff find our podcast. If you have any suggestions or comments, please drop us a line at info@theomegabeam.com. Be good to yourselves and each other, and we'll catch you next time.
The Omega Beam. The Omega Beam. Full stop.